Over 500,000 homes are without power. 12,000 flights were canceled in a single day. Temperatures were so cold that 8 people were found frozen to death on the streets of New York City. This is not just about snow days and hot chocolate. People are freezing to death on the streets. Snowplows are accidentally running over victims who are trying to clear their driveways. A 16-year-old girl died in a sledding accident that should never have happened. The worst part is that another storm might be heading for the East Coast this weekend. Let me explain exactly what is happening right now in America and why this winter storm is unlike anything we have seen in years. Here's what we're dealing with. A massive winter storm has carved a 1,300-mile path of destruction from Arkansas all the way to New England. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the distance from London to Athens. Imagine that entire stretch buried under more than a foot of snow, with some areas getting up to 20 inches. But it is not just the snow. The National Weather Service recorded wind chills dropping to minus 25 degrees Fahrenheit near Pittsburgh. That is minus 31 degrees Celsius for those using the metric system. At those temperatures, exposed skin can develop frostbite in less than 10 minutes. And here is something truly staggering. Meteorologists report that the entire lower 48 states experienced their coldest average low temperature since January 2014, hitting minus 9.8 degrees Fahrenheit. When was the last time you heard of the entire continental United States freezing simultaneously? Right now, over 560,000 homes and businesses remain without power. Most of these outages are concentrated in the South, where states like Mississippi and Tennessee are simply not equipped to handle this kind of extreme winter weather. When freezing rain coats power lines and tree branches, they snap under the weight. We are talking about communities that might not see their lights turn back on for days. Now let's talk about what really matters here, the lives lost. At least 30 people have died as a direct result of this storm, and that number keeps climbing. These are not just statistics. These are real people with families, friends, and futures that were cut short by extreme weather. In New York City alone, 8 people were found dead outdoors over the weekend. The exact causes are still under investigation, but exposure to these brutal temperatures is the likely culprit. Imagine being caught outside when temperatures plummet and having nowhere to go. In Emporia, Kansas, a 28-year-old teacher was found dead in the snow. Police say she was last seen leaving a bar without her coat or her phone. In those conditions, that decision proved fatal. The tragedy extends to accidents that would not have happened under normal circumstances. In Frisco, Texas, a 16-year-old girl died in what should have been harmless winter fun. She and a friend were being pulled on a sled behind a car driven by another teenager when the sled hit a curb and crashed into a tree. In Arkansas, a 17-year-old boy died after being dragged by a quad bike in the snow and colliding with a tree. Even people trying to help themselves became victims. In Pennsylvania, 3 people between the ages of 60 and 84 died while shoveling snow. The county coroner issued a stark warning afterward. If you have a history of heart conditions or other medical problems, be extremely careful when clearing snow. The physical exertion in frigid temperatures can be deadly. And perhaps most tragically, there have been accidental deaths involving snowplows. In Massachusetts and Ohio, 2 people were run over by snowplows. In one case in New Jersey, a man was found dead with a shovel still in his hand. The deaths have been reported across multiple states, with 4 in Tennessee, 3 each in Louisiana and Pennsylvania, 2 in Mississippi, and 1 each in Kansas, Ohio, South Carolina, New Jersey, and Kentucky. Beyond the tragic loss of life, this storm has brought America to a standstill in ways we have not seen since the COVID-19 pandemic. On Monday alone, more than 12,000 flights were delayed or canceled across the United States. But Sunday was even worse. 45% of all United States flights were canceled. According to aviation analytics firm Cirium, that was the highest single day for flight cancellations since the pandemic began. Think about what that means. Thousands of people stranded in airports, missed connections, missed meetings, missed funerals, missed weddings. And because major hubs like Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport were completely paralyzed by the storm, the disruption rippled across the entire national flight network. Planes and flight crews were stuck, creating a domino effect that affected flights that had nothing to do with the storm itself. Schools across affected regions shut down completely. In New York City, which saw its snowiest day in years with some neighborhoods recording 8 to 15 inches of snow, 500,000 students were told to log in for remote classes instead. Snow days, ironically, have become a relic of the pre-pandemic era. The University of Mississippi took an even more drastic step, canceling classes for the entire week. Their Oxford campus looked like a war zone, not from bombs but from ice. The mayor described it perfectly, saying it looks like a tornado went down every street. Trees, limbs, and power lines were down everywhere, making roads impassable and the campus too dangerous for students. Here's something you need to understand. Not all parts of America are created equal when it comes to winter weather preparedness. The southern states got hit particularly hard, not just because of the severity of the storm, but because they lack the infrastructure to deal with it. Mississippi experienced its worst ice storm since 1994. Governor Tate Reeves reported that at least 14 homes, 1 business, and 20 public roads suffered major damage from falling trees and collapsed structures. In northern Mississippi and parts of Tennessee, freezing rain created a coating of ice on everything. When ice accumulates on tree branches and power lines, the added weight becomes too much to bear. Branches snap, power lines come down, and suddenly entire communities are plunged into darkness and cold. Emergency officials scrambled to set up warming stations, distributing cots, blankets, bottled water, and generators. But getting these supplies to hard-hit areas became a challenge when the roads themselves were too dangerous to travel. In the Nashville area, about 146,000 homes and businesses were still without power by Monday evening. Many hotels sold out as residents fled their dark, freezing homes. One father, Alex Murray, booked a hotel room specifically because they needed a working freezer to preserve pumped breast milk for their 6-month-old daughter. He planned to extend their stay through Wednesday, anticipating a long wait before power returned to his home. This is the reality of modern disaster response. Families are making difficult choices about where to sleep, how to stay warm, and how to care for their children when basic utilities become luxuries. So what makes this particular storm so deadly? It is a combination of factors that created a perfect storm. First, the geographic scope is enormous. We are not talking about a localized blizzard affecting one city or one state. This system stretched across 1,300 miles, affecting regions from the Deep South to New England. Each area faced different challenges based on its typical climate and infrastructure. Second, the intensity of the cold is exceptional. Wind chills of -25 degrees Fahrenheit are not just uncomfortable, they are life-threatening. At those temperatures, frostbite can set in within minutes. Hypothermia becomes a real danger for anyone without adequate shelter. Third, the combination of snow and ice created uniquely hazardous conditions. In the north, heavy snow accumulation made roads impassable and put structural stress on buildings. In the south, freezing rain coated everything in ice and brought down power infrastructure that was not designed to handle such weight. Fourth, the duration of the cold snap matters. This is not a one-day event. Arctic air continues to flow into the affected regions, sustaining freezing temperatures even after the snow and ice stopped falling. When you cannot warm up between waves of cold, the risk compounds. And finally, the storm caught many people off guard. While weather services issued warnings, the severity exceeded what many communities were prepared to handle. Southern states in particular had limited experience with ice storms of this magnitude. Here is what everyone wants to know. Is the worst behind us? Unfortunately, the answer is no. Meteorologists are warning that a fresh influx of Arctic air is expected to sustain freezing temperatures in areas already covered in snow and ice. This means the current dangerous conditions will persist for days. Even more concerning, forecasters say there is a possibility that another winter storm could hit parts of the East Coast this weekend. Communities that are still recovering from this current disaster might have to brace for round 2. For the hundreds of thousands of people still without power in Mississippi, Tennessee, and other states, officials are warning that it could take days before electricity is restored. When you are facing another night of below-freezing temperatures without heat, that is not just an inconvenience, it is a survival situation. The National Weather Service continues to issue warnings across affected regions. If you are in one of these areas, now is not the time to let your guard down. This leads us to a question many of you are probably asking. Are these extreme winter storms becoming more frequent? The data on this is complex, and I want to be careful not to oversimplify. What we can say is that weather patterns are becoming more volatile and less predictable. While average global temperatures are rising, this does not mean we will not see extreme cold events. In fact, some research suggests that disruptions to the polar vortex can actually send blasts of Arctic air farther south than usual. The last time the United States experienced such widespread cold was in January 2014, over a decade ago. But the severity and geographic spread of this current storm make it particularly noteworthy. What is also changing is our vulnerability to these events. Our infrastructure, our power grids, and our emergency response systems are being tested in new ways. The fact that southern states can experience ice storms, rivaling anything seen in decades, shows that nowhere is truly immune. This storm also highlights the critical importance of emergency preparedness. The people who died were not all caught in unexpected situations. Some were trying to clear snow, others were enjoying winter activities, and some simply underestimated the danger of being outside without proper protection. So where do we go from here? Right now, emergency response teams are working around the clock across multiple states. Utility companies have crews out trying to restore power to over 500,000 customers, but the scale of the damage means this will take time. Warming stations remain open in the hardest-hit areas, providing shelter for people who cannot stay in their homes. Emergency supplies continue to be distributed, though dangerous road conditions make logistics challenging. Search and rescue operations are ongoing. Unfortunately, we may still discover more victims who were caught in the storm and unable to get help in time. Damage assessments are underway to determine the full economic impact of this disaster. Between property damage, lost productivity, canceled flights, and emergency response costs, we are likely looking at billions of dollars in losses. The federal government has begun coordinating with state authorities to provide assistance. FEMA and other agencies are positioning resources to help with recovery efforts, particularly in states that declared emergencies. For the airports, it will take days to work through the backlog of canceled flights and get everyone to their destinations. The ripple effects of Mondays and Sundays' mass cancellations will be felt throughout the week. What we are witnessing right now is a stark reminder that nature does not care about our plans, our technology, or our assumptions about what is possible. 30 people have died. That number may still rise. Hundreds of thousands remain without power in freezing conditions. Millions have been affected by flight cancellations, school closures, and dangerous travel conditions. This storm has exposed vulnerabilities in our infrastructure and our preparedness. It has shown us that a warming planet does not mean the end of extreme cold. It might actually mean more unpredictable and severe weather events. If you are in an affected area, please take the warnings seriously. Check on your neighbors, especially the elderly. Do not try to travel unless absolutely necessary. If you have power and heat, consider yourself fortunate, because over 500,000 Americans are going without tonight. For everyone else, this is a reminder to prepare for the unexpected. Weather patterns are changing, and extreme events can happen anywhere. Stay safe out there.